I am delighted to be back in India, or may I say, incredible India. This nation has achieved tremendous development and prosperity and possesses so much potential for the future, which is a sentiment of the successful and visionary policies of the Honorable Prime Minister. It is a distinct privilege for all of us, sir, to have you inaugurate this important event. I also want to thank the Honorable Narendra Pradhan, Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and indeed the entire Indian government for this incredible hospitality and organizational effort to host this impressive gathering of energy ministers, CEOs, and international energy organizations. It is very fitting that this IEF ministerial meeting is being held in a nation which over the coming quarter century will see the fastest energy demand growth in the world, accounting for almost 1/3 of total energy demand growth. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that the world is undergoing an energy transformation. But much of today's energy debate centers on the pace and scope of this transformation and the optimum way forward. I, for one, strongly believe that for a long time to come, the world will need all energy sources, including increasing volumes of oil and gas. So we must have a dual purpose. First, we certainly need to develop new energy sources and technologies. But second, we must continue investing in those existing energy sources, which we know will be needed for the foreseeable future. In other words, we need to take a holistic view and consider the totality of energy, meaning the sum total of all forms of energy throughout their value chains, from production through consumption. In my mind, this is the recipe for an orderly and successful transformation. In Saudi Arabia, we've adopted this approach and continue to strengthen our oil and gas businesses while concurrently developing renewable energy, in which we also possess great potential and intend to be a global leader. This emphasis is expressed in the recent announcement by our Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, of a $200 billion investment to develop 200 gigawatts of solar power, one of the world's largest ever solar programs. Ladies and gentlemen, when we discuss energy, we must keep in mind the issue of energy accessibility, adequacy, and affordability, especially since energy is such a pivotal driver of economic growth, job creation, and the ability of people to raise their living standards. Likewise, we need to consider the environmental aspects of energy in order to achieve economic development and protect the well-being of our planet. This was eloquently stated by the Honorable Prime Minister in the video we just saw when he talked about energy access, energy efficiency, energy sustainability, and energy security. One guiding principle of the Paris Agreement is that global climate actions must be taken within the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication. So as we move toward implementing the agreement in 2020, we must reduce the impact of greenhouse gases in a manner that minimizes risks to energy security, cushions economic impacts, and preferentially focuses on sectors that deliver the biggest bang for our buck. And as we gather here in India, we must take note of the visible economic, energy, and environmental challenges faced by developing nations, while calling on industrialized nations to take the lead from an equity perspective. We therefore need to promote more pragmatic energy policies for the future, keeping in mind the complex factors involved, the fact that countries are at different development stages, and the rapidly changing technological landscape. That is best accomplished through discussions like the dialogue we're kicking off this morning, which is most fruitful with the full involvement of key stakeholders under the IEF umbrella. I am glad we're able to bring together such influential agencies as the International Energy Agency, OPEC, the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, the World Energy Forum, and the World Petroleum Council, amongst others. The IEF has done a tremendous job of advancing consumer-producer dialogue, but it would perform another invaluable service by organizing the effort to develop an optimum energy transition blueprint. I also believe the importance of the global energy dialogue has never been greater than at the present moment when so many uncertainties surround the energy markets. Unfortunately, even as we call for a totality of energy approach, the future supply situation of many proven energy sources is not very reassuring, particularly for oil. Many of us are familiar with the misguided and contrary notions of peak supply and, more recently, peak demand, both of which lost credibility over the years. But today, rather than a peak, I am more concerned about a trough that is real, and that is the threat of trough investment, which is much more worrying because lagging investments has real-life consequences, not just a conceptual existence in blogs and newspaper articles. At present, even though oil demand has been growing recently at a rate of 1.5 million barrels per day, oil investments have not kept pace. This is due not simply to immediate market conditions, but also to an investment climate shaped by adverse sentiment and misleading signals from policy makers, some financial institutions voicing negative views, and misguided talk of stranded resources. You can imagine that in this kind of environment, investors would not be willing to pour trillions of dollars into maintaining and growing much-needed oil supplies. Honorable Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, as fossil fuels will be with us for many decades to come, we must create an enabling and encouraging environment for investments all along the petroleum value chain and to drive for the use of advanced technologies to minimize the carbon footprint of these proven fuels. Then, and only then, can we ensure we're concurrently advancing both the accessibility and sustainability of energy use. With regards to the short-term oil market, which I know is on the minds of many of you, we see strong fundamentals and reasonable balance, despite a certain degree of volatility. But enhancing market stability over the longer term will require a concerted and consistent effort. So we within OPEC and our partners outside the organization are sustaining our coordination agreement. In my view, It is reassuring that 24 of the planet's foremost oil producers remain committed to maintaining long-term market stability and playing a responsible and responsive role in bringing investment levels back to where they need to be. In this context, Saudi Arabia and Russia are discussing extending cooperation in order to monitor the market and take joint action when necessary to maintain stability, which is good news for producers and consumers alike. Of course, the Kingdom has always been a responsible and reliable actor and has consistently adopted a long-term view of the market. As our oil supply costs are among the lowest in the world, we intend to continue playing our part in ensuring supply security by making suitable investments, bridging the trough, so to speak. In fact, Saudi Arabia's spare oil production capacity represents the majority of global spare capacity today. And as many of you know, there have been numerous occasions in the past when our spare capacity has meant the difference between prosperity and peril for the global economy. Today, I can assure all of you that we will continue to play that responsible role going forward. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, as the policymakers responsible for guiding the global energy transition already underway, we must plot a course that protects and promotes the interests of all stakeholders. I strongly call for the adoption of the concept of the totality of energy I outlined, wisely investing in a robust global energy portfolio that includes both existing and new energy sources, thereby avoiding the trough investment risk. The accessibility, adequacy, and affordability of future energy are important for all nations, as is its environmental impact, and our work here today is very vital.